Science is long reigned as the field that never stands still. Research, experiments, observations, and analysis have ensured that we are never far away from the newest scientific revelation that could rock the foundations of previous scientific discoveries to their cause. From the weather to ancient history to space, we are always learning, and so the field constantly moves ever forward in the search of the newest discovery. So today, we will be looking at 3 recent discoveries and what they might mean for those of us watching these developments unfold. Our sun's twin. Our sun lies at the heart of the solar system, and it's no secret that it's massive. Scientists have figured out that the sun is around 110 times the diameter of the Earth. This means that over 1 million Earths could fit inside the sun. Researchers have come forward and said that when our sun was born 4.5 billion years ago, it had a twin. However, this twin sun was not identical. Harvard scientists have said that this was the same with every other star in our universe. It has in fact been proved that many stars do have companions. Astronomers are now focused on trying to understand whether binary and triplet star systems are born that way. Astronomers have been searching for the sun's twin. This star goes by the name Nemesis. It's even been suggested that Nemesis is the reason behind the KT extinction, one of the largest mass extinction events to happen on our planet. It's also become known as the Die of the Dinosaurs. It's been theorized that Nemesis pushed an asteroid into the orbit of Earth. A research astronomer from UC Berkeley said the following: "There probably was a Nemesis a long time ago. We have searched and tried to find out where this star resides. The system where this star would be has either broke apart or shrank. This other sun, however, would not have been near the current one. It's thought that at one point in time, it could have been 800 million Mars away from Earth. An idea is that this sun most likely escaped and then mixed with other stars in the Milky Way's region. As mentioned, this isn't science fiction either. Other researchers have come forward and said that this is not the first time that the idea that stars form with a companion has been suggested. A research paper is going to be featured in the Royal Astronomical Society. This will look at the origins of binary and multiple star systems. However, although this theory does have its supporters, there are those that don't believe in the Nemesis theory. Some researchers have come forward and said that after studying craters, it doesn't back up the Nemesis claim. Regardless, studies are still happening to try and prove the existence of this hypothetical star. Rethinking the Neanderthal cave in France. When you think about a Neanderthal, what first comes to your mind? Perhaps an ancient and unintelligent human? Well, you might want to think the latter part. Deep underground, scientists were able to discover some dark caves in France's Avern Valley. However, they were not just any regular caves. They were man-made structures over 176,000 years old, which was about 150,000 years older than any structure that had been uncovered before. That could only mean one thing: they were built by none other than the Neanderthal. This fascinating discovery changes the entire way that we see these ancient hominids. Whereas we previously associated them more closely with primates than humans, it turns out that they might be closer to us than we expected. But just how was it determined that Neanderthals were capable of building such caves? It all started in 1990 when explorer Bruno Kalszewski squeezed through a tunnel to arrive at the Brunacle Cave. After crossing animal bones and water pools in their path, he finally stumbled upon a startling scene of crushed-up stalagmites that were arranged into 2 ring shapes. All around these rings were indications of burnt bones. Immediately, he suspected that this was not naturally occurring. But when did this exactly take place? A carbon dating of a burnt bare bone revealed that it was about 47,600 years ago, which made it older than any discovered cave painting. Though it seemed impossible, that put it right in the age of the Neanderthal. To further prove this, another cave lover named Sophie Verheyden decided to uranium date the stalagmites. It turns out that the stalagmites were crushed up by people more than 176,000 years ago, which was further back than anyone had anticipated. While it was never determined what these Neanderthals were trying to do, it was evident that they used fire, were capable of building things, and most likely had tools by their side. Suddenly, they might look a lot more familiar and less unintelligent than before. The end of all after all. The moon is shrinking. Earth's moon was formed around 4.6 billion years ago, and it's always in synchronous rotation with Earth, which means that we always see the same side of the moon. The first unmanned mission to the moon was in 1959 by the Soviet lunar program, with the first manned landing being Apollo 11 in 1969. Due to its size and composition, the moon is sometimes classified as a terrestrial planet, along with Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. In the summer of 1994, the moon was very extensively mapped by the little spacecraft Clementine and again in 1999 by Luna Perspecta. In recent years, there has been a special interest in the dark side of the moon. This popular term refers to the fact that the same physical half of the moon is always facing Earth, which in turn means that there's a dark side. Recent NASA scientists have come forward and said that they've discovered something interesting about our moon. They said that it's shrinking and shaking. They've said that their studies have shown that the inside of the moon has shriveled up and that deep cliffs can be found all over its surface. What's interesting is that this recent study suggests that the moon could still be shrinking. Researchers have also come forward and said that the moon's surface crust is brittle and that due to the moon shrinking, it's starting to break the surface. One of the senior scientists at NASA said the following about this discovery. Our analysis gives the first evidence that these faults are still active and likely producing moonquakes today as the moon continues to gradually cool and shrink. Some of these quakes can be fairly strong, around 5 on the Richter scale. The scientists have also been using high-detailed images to help the discovery of other faults. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera has snapped over 3,500 images, and these have helped scientists to understand what's going on the surface of the moon. Some photographs in particular have shown them that there are bright patches and scraps on certain terrains. These small details are showing the researchers that recent quakes have happened on the moon. These moonquakes can last up to an hour and have been known to send boulders rolling down cliff slopes. One researcher said that around 20 to 30% of the moonquakes were most likely generated by built-up energy from these faults, and that they didn't think this had happened from naturally occurring space debris like asteroids. NASA scientists have said that they are keeping a close eye on this seismic shaking. This recent discovery was published in the journal Nature Geoscience. What do you make of these interesting discoveries? World is ours to explore, from hidden archaeological structures to impressive astronomical feats. So today we will be looking at 3 recent scientific discoveries. Drone finds 1,000-year-old village. We are continuously finding innovative ways to explore new places and terrain. One of the more modern developments in archaeological research is being able to use drones to capture images and share the view of places we have not been able to reach before. Back in 2013, a team of archaeologists managed to use a drone to reveal a village that has been estimated to be about 1,000 years old. The team sent a small drone to Blue Jay, a village that archaeologists first revealed in the 1970s. The village lies 43 miles south from Chaco Canyon in the northwest of New Mexico. This village is home to nearly 60 ancestral, pew-blown houses that surround an area that was once a spring. Today, Blue Jay is somewhat in ruins. It is hidden behind various plants and parts are buried in sandstone blown down by cliffs. We have been able to find out a little about the ancient structures of this site through some excavations, though this drone mission revealed an awful lot more. Blue Jay received a visit from a small drone able to capture thermal infrared images. This let the team, quite literally, see what was hiding beneath the surface. The team revealed structures we have never seen before in a Native American settlement. Needless to say, this was a momentous discovery. Jesse Kasana, an archaeologist from the University of Arkansas, said, "I was really pleased with the results." He then went on to explain that studies like this can show just how incredible drones or UAVs are in various fields of scientific research. This was not the first investigation of the site, with some excavations having taken place prior. However, the drone images both confirmed the presence of stone compounds we had identified and were already aware of, as well as showing us this new information. Once again, this is great news. The methods we have been using so far are seemingly reliable, and we now have new additional ways to confirm these stone structures without contradicting what we know so far. As with a great number of archaeological discoveries, the thermal images uncovered a lot more than the physical structures. We were also given a window into further cultural understanding. For a while now, Blue Jay has been considered somewhat unusual, a bit of an outlier compared to the surrounding villages. Typically, we expect to see some great houses or kivas, areas of public gatherings or ceremonies, though none of these trademark features of Chacoera Pueblo sites were seen in Blue Jay. The thermal images show a dark circle in the wall of the plaza area. This means we can expect a wetter, colder soil here, which may be filling in spaces where the ceremonies, gatherings, and alike events took place. We know there is an underground circular structure of some sort that had been missed when studying before. Not only can these thermal images show us areas of interest, but it also gives us a clear idea of where we can begin looking and prepare and plan a course of digging with direction in mind before any soil has even been taken up. Now that we know what household compounds look like in thermal imaging, we could use it to prospect for structures at other sites. This research method is not limited to this one area. The use of drones, thermal, and infrared imaging are all invaluable to so many archaeological sites. The technology works because features like bricks or stone walls keep and release warmth in a different way that the soil that surrounds those features does. This means even when structures are entirely buried, we can oftentimes view an outline of the structure using heat maps. Of course, the equipment is rather expensive and high-quality imaging devices are key. It's not a new idea to use thermal imaging, it is just simply an expensive and difficult process to initiate. What is even more complex is considering the expenses against the likelihood of crashing the drones. Not a question of if you'll crash it, but of when and how badly. There are issues such as hardware coming loose or software glitching, all of which can cause devastating losses to the equipment. Another hurdle to this research technique is the legality. The Federal Aviation Administration has to implement a series of rules and regulations dictating what is and is not allowed when flying these sorts of drones. It will be resolved to enough of a compromise that this revolutionary scientific method can still be used and bring all sorts of new discoveries. Saturn's moon Titan is cooking its own atmosphere. Compared to our one moon, some of the planets in our solar system are drowning in these natural satellites, with Saturn having 82 moons, 53 of which are confirmed. One of the ringed planet's moons is particularly interesting, however, catching the eyes of scientists time and time again. This time, it's Titan's thick atmosphere that has sparked discussion. Titan is Saturn's largest moon, and the dense atmosphere of the planet, largely made of nitrogen, seems to be the result of organic material seemingly baking in the moon's insides. There is plenty of interesting organic chemistry taking place on this moon, making it a prime spot to investigate potential alien life. Other than us here on Earth, Titan is the only body in our solar system that has a significant amount of liquid on its surface. Coupled with the complex molecules incorporating carbon, makes this moon a possible location for some sort of life. Titan is the only moon in our solar system at least that has some sort of notable atmosphere and that has, of course, raised several questions. Scientists have wondered and theorized the source of this atmosphere for years, suggesting primarily that the ammonia ice from comets has somehow been converted into nitrogen. Although this still does not address the effects of complex organic material upon the atmosphere. The composition of Titan's atmosphere, as far as we can understand, does not align with the types of nitrogen and other elements we can find in comets. Furthermore, there is 5% of Titan's atmosphere that is made of methane, something else this theory does not take into consideration. Kelly Miller, a researcher at Southwest Research Institute of Boulder, and the lead author of a new study, has led a team that is looking at data collected by the Rosetta spacecraft. This looked at the comet 67P, Churyumov-Gerasimenko, and discovered that the comet was made up of 50% ice, 25% rock, and 25% organic material. It is plausible that these materials, which would have been present in the early formation of the solar system, could be the same materials that built Titan. Comets and, as Miller refers to them, primitive bodies, can be described as leftover building blocks of the solar system that feed into bigger bodies we can still see today, such as Titan. Miller suggests the organic, rocky material that is more primitive would be found in the core of bodies like Titan. According to calculations carried out by Miller and her team, if the organic material were in the core of the Moon, then it would be able to produce gas not dissimilar to the atmosphere we know Titan to have today. The organic material combined with the thermal environment would result in a thick gas atmosphere. Of course, further research is necessary before we will be able to determine if this is accurate, though the theory gives us an explanation that makes sense given the information that we have to have. NASA's X-ray telescope shows the remains of a star that exploded in the 17th century. The night sky is filled with stunning sights, from the shining stars to what is left behind from them. Now, NASA's new X-ray space telescope has taken its first image since its launch in December 2021, and the pictures are stunning. The X-ray telescope, Imagine X-ray Polarimetry, showed the electromagnetic afterglow of a supernova, a glow formed from the remains of a star that exploded in the 17th century. The name of the afterglow is Cassiopeia A. This sight was formed from the shock waves following the explosion. This brought together the surrounding gas and rapidly increased the temperatures, accelerating cosmic ray particles and resulting in a cloud that is able to glow under X-ray light. Cassiopeia A is not news to us by any measure. Have been able to study it before, though the IXP gives us a new insight into the phenomenon. It took a month even after the launch for the telescope to calibrate and adjust to the new environment, so these images released in February 2022 are the first we have ever seen from IXP. Cassiopeia A itself is a supernova gas cloud spanning 10 light-years in width. In the midst of this cloud somewhere there is a super-dense object, either a black hole or a neutron star, hiding away from when the star's core initially collapsed. The aim of the IXP team is to eventually use the data retrieved from the telescope to build a map of polarized X-rays across Cassiopeia A. The new technology is truly promising and provides a whole new insight into what we thought we knew. The discoveries we can make each day are truly fascinating, from using new equipment or reinventing to solving mysteries that have puzzled us for years. Science is constantly advancing and pushing our world forwards. And what do you make of these discoveries? The world is full of the very rare and unusual, from our own planet Earth to the very farthest reaches of the cosmos. Whether natural discoveries are being made or laboratory experiments are being carried out successfully, scientific innovation changes and evolves from day to day, leaving us in a constant state of wonder and awe. So today, we will be going over 3 recent discoveries that came about as a result of this innovation. Massive earthquake caused 100 large sinkholes in Croatian village. On December 31st, a devastating 6.4 magnitude earthquake rocked the city of Petrinja to its very core. Just 6 days after the fact, as the community was still reeling from the devastation, a massive sinkhole opened up overnight. And this would not be the last. The first gaping sinkhole measured 98 feet wide and 49 feet deep. After its emergence, at least one new sinkhole was created nearly every day. After a month had passed, nearly 100 sinkholes had opened up within the struggling village. Many events within the story are entirely unprecedented. For starters, the 6.4 magnitude earthquake is the strongest earthquake that Croatia has suffered in over 4 decades. Thousands of homes have been entirely decimated and 7 people have to have been wiped out in its aftermath. What makes this story even more unnerving is the sinkholes. While earthquakes are known to cause sinkholes, the sheer number and size of the resulting sinkholes have baffled experts. The sinkholes covered over 3.8 square miles of territory in the area and only seem to grow with each passing moment. The original sinkhole is now the largest in the village. When it first emerged, it was about 33 feet wide, but the gaping maw started to expand immediately. Over the next 3 months, the hole tripled in size, resulting in an unbelievable diameter of over 95 feet. As a result of this truly amazing yet devastating event, geologists and seismologists around the world have made the trip to Croatia to study the damages. It is known that Croatia is built on a highly active seismic system. This predisposes the area to earthquakes of disproportionate magnitude. As a result of this, liquefaction can be an expected result. Liquefaction is a process in which solid ground begins to behave like liquid. However, Joseph Stipkevich, a leading seismologist within the Department of Geophysics in Zagreb, claimed nobody expected the appearance of so many sinkholes. To understand this unexpected result, how this came to be, the leading theory is that Croatia is experiencing cover collapse sinkholes. These sinkholes are unique because they begin to form long before an earthquake opens them for the world to see. Cover collapse sinkholes are formed when the underground rock experiences erosion from the water below the surface. This water creates underground caverns which effectively hollow the ground within the area. Sturdy materials such as clay, this hollow ground will be undetectable from the surface and will not appear to be dangerous. Croatia unfortunately has these exact conditions, which likely led to much of the ground being hollowed out before the massive earthquake hit the village. NASA finds ancient organic material, mysterious methane on Mars. NASA's own Curiosity rover has stumbled across organic material preserved within sedimentary rocks on Mars up to 3 billion years old. Whilst many people hear organic molecules and assume this equates to life and biological sustainability, NASA has been quick to disclaim that whilst this is exciting, this is not the only possible explanation. The molecules found on Mars certainly contain carbon and hydrogen, with the likely possibility of accompanying elements such as oxygen and nitrogen yet to be found. Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters, Thomas Zabukin stated, "With these new findings, Mars is telling us to stay the course and keep searching for evidence of life. Whilst we may not have concrete evidence that Mars has hosted life, we have enough material to speculate and not entirely dismiss the idea that there may once have been life on Mars supported by the now ancient organic material." Another NASA researcher, Jen Eganbrode, explains that this organic material could simply record and document ancient life, may have even been a food source for life or even existed entirely independently of life. Most importantly, however, she stresses that this is an insightful and promising discovery regardless as to which category this finding does fall into, as it tells us new information regarding the planetary conditions and processes all informed by the chemical compositions found. Today we can determine that Mars can no longer support life, though this discovery of organic material reminds us that in the past Mars once had environmental conditions and a climate that could facilitate liquid water, meaning life could theoretically survive. However, this discovery does not end here. Scientists have also discovered a fluctuation in methane levels in the atmosphere of Mars, dependent upon each season. The study observed these changes to be consistent within each Mars year, over a 3-year period on Mars, equating to a 6-year-long study for the scientists here on Earth. This observation was completed by the sample analysis at Mars Suite of the Curiosity. There are multiple explanations, again with varying degrees of excitement attached, as to why the methane levels fluctuate like this. Some suggest that the chemical interaction between water and rock may have generated methane, while others retain a firm belief that we should still consider that this methane has a biological origin, suggesting Mars once hosted some kind of life. Do these new influences and factors suggest that life once existed on Mars? A climate evolution and development that became too inhospitable? Or could these discoveries stem from the other environmental explanations? Perhaps we are not as alone in our solar system as we may have once thought. The modern advancement of space exploration is unending and exciting, giving us information we never knew we were missing, and providing insights and theories we never thought possible. The Japan Earth Grazer 2006. Meteors are the small bodies of matter that enter the Earth's atmosphere and become incandescent due to friction. They travel at very high speeds and appear as streaks of light. While many of the meteors hit the surface of the Earth, some meteors enter the Earth's surface in such a trajectory that is almost parallel to the Earth's surface. Due to their high speed, these meteors bounce back into the upper atmosphere and re-enter space. Such meteors are known as Earth grazers. One of the most fascinating examples of an earth grazer was observed in Japan. On March 29, 2006, the citizens in several cities of Japan witnessed a bright fireball travel across the sky. Scientists in different research facilities in Japan were able to accurately measure the characteristics of the meteor. Scientists determined that the fireball was caused by a meteor that weighed approximately 100 kilograms. It had entered the Earth's atmosphere at a height of 87 kilometers, and then it covered a distance of 1,000 kilometers in only 35 seconds before leaving the Earth's atmosphere. This was only the third Earth grazer to have been observed and measured accurately by scientists. It was widely photographed and videos were made by ordinary people and scientists observing the Earth grazer. The event was also widely covered by the mainstream media. It was one of the most rare and fascinating space-related events to have ever been witnessed by a large number of people. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Our world has many interesting research projects taking place as we speak, and it is exciting to take a look at those interesting findings, from eco-friendly projects to celestial events to brand new species. So today, we will be looking at 3 interesting discoveries and projects you may have missed. Dingo neck. Throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, tales emerged of the dingo neck, a strange creature mostly seen within the African Congolese jungles found in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Investigating these jungles has led us to the discoveries of new species, such as the okapi, a distant relative to the giraffe, or the bongo, an African forest antelope. But could there also be some more unusual, less easily explained animals hiding amongst the trees? The dingo neck, often referred to as a jungle walrus, has had very mixed descriptions of its physical appearance throughout the years, after revealing itself for only a few minor glimpses. From first-hand accounts to people's personal opinion based upon drawings, this strange creature has been reported as being a peculiar mix of many animals: a jungle walrus, a scorpion mixed with a big cat, a pangolin combined with a saber-toothed tiger, a beast fish. The first reports of the dingoneck occurred in 1907, spotted near Lake Victoria by big game hunter Alfred Jordan, alongside his accompanying hunting party. Perhaps our most detailed account of the dingoneck, however, has come from another big game hunter, Edgar Beecher Bronson, who has recounted in Closed Territory. Bronson described this cryptid as reaching 14 or 15 feet in length, having a head with markings resembling that of a leopard but the size of a lioness, having 2 white fangs, scales similar to an armadillo, a fin as a tail, and the width of a hippopotamus. This peculiar description of such a physically repellent creature is confusing to say the least. In 1913, an article was published in the East Africa Natural History Society written by Charles William Hobley, which added similar descriptions to Bronson's. In 1918, an article published in a magazine confirmed the beast as being a recent discovery of a new species. According to sightings and legends, the dingoneck is a carnivore and shows no mercy to any animals it may come across. The meter-long tusks allow for almost any animal to become an easy victim to the only elephants appear to be exempt, presumably due to their great size and strength. Equipped with its strange mixture of animal features, the dingoneck is reportedly incredibly territorial, meaning a passerby can easily fall prey to the beast fish. This unusual creature is inarguably elusive, though with such mixed accounts and interpretations surrounding the physical aspects of this animal, how can we be sure we will ever find it? The search continues to determine the true nature of this supposedly hideous beast. Hidden Pyramid suggests the Mayans had direct contact with another civilization more than 800 miles away. Tikal is an ancient Mayan citadel tucked away in the dense rainforests of Guatemala. It was the ceremonial center of an ancient city that once flourished between 200 and 850 AD. Archaeologists have often speculated that the early civilization was influenced by the culture of Teotihuacan, Mesoamerican civilization and the region's most powerful kingdom at the time. Located over 800 miles away, the civilization was thought to have a presence in the Mayan city based on artifacts and inscriptions found in the area. With the use of new technologies, a recent high-tech discovery indicates that they were more deeply connected than archaeologists had originally thought. Thanks to a 3D image of the area created using LiDAR technology, a hidden pyramid has been found beneath an unshaming hill in the Tikal landscape. Buried beneath the earth for thousands of years, the lost structure does not resemble any of the city's surviving buildings. Instead, it has all the traditional elements of a Teotihuacan structure and resembles a miniature version of their classic citadels. Multiple excavations of the area reveal that the burial practices, construction, and the types of weaponry and ceramics found inside are all of Teotihuacan design. They found darts made of green obsidian, which is a naturally occurring volcanic glass formed when lava extruded from a volcano cools, was commonly used by the Mesoamerican civilization due to their monopoly on the obsidian trade and the major deposit located just outside their main city. Another discovery in the pyramid was an artifact that was decorated with symbols of the Teotihuacan rain god. This finding is significant because it completely rewrites the theories archaeologists had about the relationship between the two civilizations. It suggests that Tikal could have been an outpost of the Teotihuacan Empire. The research team determined the temple's construction began before the year 278. This would have been 100 years before the Teotihuacan people conquered Tikal, a significant event recounted in ancient Mayan inscriptions. Around the same time, a neighborhood in Teotihuacan decorated in elaborate Mayan murals and style was utterly destroyed and left in ruin. Archaeologists speculate that there was a breakdown in their once strong alliance and hope that further excavations will provide a better understanding of their shared history. A nail that could have been used in Jesus' crucifixion found in a hidden chamber. Silently hidden away in the ground beneath a secret chamber of the Milevskoy Monastery in the Czech Republic were various amazing treasures. Among these relics was a nail that scholars believe may have been used in Jesus Christ's crucifixion. The box was embellished with a 21-carat gold cross and was dated back to 260 AD. Was inscribed on the box. Unfortunately, scientists and critics are currently unable to deny or confirm whether the nail was used in the actual crucifixion. But its mere discovery is, in the words of one of the experts involved, even greater than the reliquary of St. Maurice. For the uninitiated, the Maurice reliquary was a gilded box which contained the fragmented body of St. Maurice, St. John the Baptist, and St. Timothy, and was an astonishing historical and religious discovery. One of the people involved in the gilded box's greater nerfing told the Czech News that they had absolutely no idea the relics were hidden due to the fact that the Hussites destroyed the archive, which meant they had no clue that there was anything like it stored away. The concealed chamber's existence is believed to have been a direct result of raids by the Hussites in the 15th century. The chamber was built to protect valuable artifacts owned by the church. Czech experts claim that it is highly possible for the nail to have been used in Jesus' actual crucifixion because the Milev Monastery was one of the richest institutes in the Czech Republic. Consequently, an artifact of such importance could have ended up there at some point in time. Unfortunately, the true authenticity of the nail is yet to be confirmed by other professional scientists and theologians in the field. It should, however, be noted that this is far from the first time where someone has claimed to have uncovered a nail from the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And what do you make of these recent discoveries? The Catholic Church is long fascinated people. Its rich history is well documented, but there's other aspects of the Church that aren't talked about, some being ancient texts, scriptures, and the Vatican's Apostolic Archive. With very little being known about it, this 53-mile or 85-kilometer archive is full of tens of thousands of books, many of which are said to detail ancient events. The Bible is composed of lots of different books. It's thought of as a holy gospel truth by millions across the globe, written by Moses and others around 1000 BC. It tells of Jesus' miracles, from the well-known tale of the Good Samaritan to when he fed the thousands with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. In fact, the Bible is the most printed book in the world, with around 5 billion copies produced. However, the original version actually contained more books than present in modern versions. Naturally, people found this a little bit strange. The 14 scriptures are known, but they are still yet to be printed in the modern-day versions, leaving many to wonder what are the churches hiding. Once people found this out, they started to look deeper into some of these old tales and books. The ones that interest people the most revolves around stories of mysterious entities. The belief in demonic possession is that an entity, demon, or spirit is able to control someone's actions against their will. Those who claim to be possessed often maintain that symptoms of possession include memory loss, the inability to control oneself, and voices in one's mind. The demonic entity known as Valak has been featured in various movies. But the entity is actually based on old 17th century documents. Here it reveals that Valak has the ability to control things, mainly serpents, and can make these creatures do whatever it wants. Although it doesn't take on the form of a nun, it's heavily detailed in the book The Lesser Key of Solomon, which has been described by historians as being a book that contains a mix of spells, conjurations, natural secrets, and ancient wisdom. There's many entities that are similar to this that have been featured in various different books, many of which have been lost in history or have been hidden away. Some suggested that there's many books that are hiding inside the Vatican, and that it's very unlikely that they'll ever see the light of day. The exorcism industry has become popular in Britain, Italy, and Ireland. Religious experts, including both Vatican and Anglican priests, agree that demonic possession seems to be a pressing issue in today's society. Scientific and non-religious experts, however, warn of the dangers of spiritual abuse. An exorcist from Sicily, Father Paglia, states that the Church is aware of the controversy surrounding the belief in exorcisms, but that the exorcism training is essential because a self-taught exorcist certainly makes errors. Meanwhile, Father Collins, an Irelander, said that the Irish people seek his guidance and help in almost everyday dealings with what they describe to be demonic influences. It's only in recent years that the demand has risen exponentially. What I'm finding out is people in their own minds believe rightly or wrongly that they're afflicted by an evil spirit. Father Collins shed his mixed views on the matter, however. I think in many cases they wrongly think it. When they turn to the Church doesn't know what to do with them. Despite his own dedication to the Catholic faith, he disagrees with the concept of so many sudden cases being real. It's mentioned in several biblical episodes of the New Testament that Jesus drove out demons from people infested with evil. Catholic priests believe there are several kinds of possession. Obsession includes sudden irrationality, obsessive thoughts, and taking their own lives. Typically, these manifests into one's dreams, slowly tormenting them. Oppression is when the victim loses consciousness or is forced by the entity to act against their morals or will, controlling their body or sending the victim's life spiraling into misfortune. Possession, as we know it, is when Satan or another demon takes full control of a person's body and uses it as a vessel without their consent. This is typically seen in Catholicism to be in part the fault of the victim, as they must have done something which allowed Satan's influence into their lives. Infestation refers to demons inhabiting objects, things, animals, or even houses. This is what occurred in the house which the movie The Conjuring was based on. Subjection, however, is when a person gives in to the possession of their own free will, consenting to having their body to be used as an unholy vessel. Other symptoms of possession are superhuman strength, the ability to speak in tongue or foreign languages, knowledge of obscure information the victim should not know, blasphemy, wrath, and excessive profanity, as well as a painful aversion to holy names, symbols, and relics. Catholic doctrine states that demonic possession can occur as a result of a mental disorder, but the cases of mental sickness shouldn't be mistaken for unholy influence. Officially, Catholic exorcisms may only occur under the strict authority of a bishop and should adhere to very specific rules. Unfortunately, such rules are hardly followed in reality, as many people turn to non-official exorcists, instead of struggling to attain the Vatican's permission. So what do you make of these books and mysterious entities? The oceans are a mysterious place. The ocean's surface revealed that over 80% of our ocean is unmapped, unobserved, and unexplored. As of right now, we've explored some of the incredible wonders of the universe, photographed a black hole, sent rovers to distant planets, and have found new exoplanets that could harbor life. But one of the last unknown frontiers can be found on planet Earth. The oceans have long been a mystery, hiding ancient secrets that have been uncovered by underwater rovers and divers. The oceans have been hiding entire cities, along with megalithic structures. Is anyone's guess as to what could be lurking beneath the waves? One recent discovery was made by online users who are looking through Google Earth. Just off the coast of Peru there appears to be a large structure that stands out from everything around it. One of the reasons people picked up on this was because the air around it is blurred out, which has led some to say that there could be more of these objects nearby, or that they could be part of an underwater base, which could explain why the areas around this object can't be seen. The large object measures in at 4,600 meters, and as of right now, theories thought it is range from ancient settlements and undiscovered pyramid among other things. One person said the following: "We're starting to see these types of objects appear more frequently. Pyramidal structures have been discovered all across the world. So it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that this could be what we're looking at. I think in the next 100 years, we're going to see more of these types of discoveries. It's discoveries like this that have led some to question what else could be lying beneath the oceans. It's finds like this that have led some to say there's likely countless civilizations waiting to be found. Every year, archaeologists are finding pyramids that have been lost in the modern age, revealing to us that we still have a lot to learn about previous civilizations. Google Earth allows anyone to scan the planet from the comfort of their home. And this has caused many interesting discoveries to be made. And perhaps one of the most interesting ones is that of the Malibu underwater structure. This interesting discovery started to make headlines when it was first detected, and that's because people couldn't work out what it was, with some saying that it could be an underwater base. At first glance, the object does look to resemble that of a building, with what appears to be large pillars holding up the bulk of the object. The discovery was made 6 miles off the coast of Point Jum in Malibu, California. The object pretty much sits on a seabed, looks to be oval in shape, and is large. Google Earth images revealed that this object is in fact massive, measuring in at around 3 miles in length, having what looks like pillars and even a large entrance. It's not hard to imagine why various theories have been put forward to try and explain it. According to various websites that look into strange underwater discoveries, they've suggested that the structure could be a base that's used by nearby military installations. Oddly enough, though, people living close to this area have long reported strange lights in the sky, only for them to vanish into the ocean without making a splash. Interestingly, when looking into the accounts of Navy officials and also fishermen who spend large amounts of time on the water, it seems that these lights aren't anything new and have actually been witnessed now for several decades, often leaving eyewitnesses confused as to what they just witnessed. Due to military officials coming forward in recent years and detailing their encounters, it's led others to believe that these sightings may hold some weight. One amateur researcher said the following: "I think I was the same as many people when I first saw this, and that was I couldn't believe this was real. At first I thought it was fake, but the object is very much real." What's interesting about this discovery is how artificial it looks. I've seen reefs, cliffs, and other underwater structures, but there's something about this that looks different. As many have pointed out, it seems to have giant pillars, as if it's this that holds up the structure itself. When you look at it from a bird's eye point of view, it looks to be oval-shaped. Everything here also looks as though it was made. It looks symmetrical. When you view things in nature, even things that humans have built, they hold their shame. For example, when people discover things like ships, we're still able to tell that it's a ship. So that's another thing about this object that stands out. The fact that it looks to be a type of building. However, not everyone agrees with this idea. David Swatch of the U.S. Geological Survey said the following: "I don't see anything special about it. I think it's because it looks like a flat surface, and then below it looks like there's these vertical columns. So someone can say, oh, this is an entryway to something special. I think it's natural and is part of the continental shelf." It's just a complicated part of what's now offshore that's seen some erosion and may be slumping when perhaps this was partially exposed when sea levels was lower. This is a really major earthquake area. Perhaps some of these features are a result of slope failures due to shaking. So what do you make these interesting underwater discoveries? The natural world is incredible. Every year, scientists and researchers discover new species, showing us that there's still a lot we don't know about. The southern state of Minas Gerais in Brazil contains some incredible natural sights, allowing visitors to see animals like the maimed wolf, along with primate species. Although these areas are incredible to visit, they allow you to get up close and personal to some of the local wildlife. Sometimes these encounters go wrong. Back in November 2021, news outlets reported that a man was walking through a rural area in Minas Gerais when he was attacked by a swarm of bees. Wildlife experts have long warned people about being careful when around bees, detailing that in July of last year, a man lost his life after a huge swarm of bees were being removed from his home. The Natural History Museum detailed that when these bees attack, they let out a pheromone. And what this does is signal more bees from the colony to join in. A hive can have between 20,000 and 80,000 bees. But researchers have said it only takes around 1,000 stings to take someone's life. As the man was being attacked, he knew he had to find some type of shelter, and the only thing nearby was that of a lake. He was close to the lake as he was fishing there with a friend, but the ordeal wasn't over. Two of the friends managed to get out, but one of them wasn't able to. Specialist divers who accorded him reported that after the man had jumped into the lake to avoid the bees, he was then attacked by a pack of piranhas. The man was found only 13 feet from the shoreline. As of right now, those who are involved in the investigation are not sure whether he lost his life due to suffocating in the water, or whether the piranhas were directly involved. The divers did say, though, that there were very clear signs that piranhas had been in the area. Although these fish are small in comparison to other larger fish species, piranhas have powerful jaws and one of the strongest bites. Researchers have compared the biting power of a shark to that of a piranha and said that it's only 1/4 as powerful as that of a piranha bite. The black piranha, which is not a pack hunter, has the largest bite power among the piranha species. Experts who conducted a series of tests revealed that it has the ability to bite down with 320 newtons. This is 30 times its own body weight. However, the long-extinct megapira had a much more powerful bind and would have ruled the region that it lived in. In the Jurassic period, every possible creature was supersized. This was especially true for the pira. The dinosaur-era superpira terrorized the Jurassic scenes and all the prey that dwelled within it. Plenty of them had to suffer from the many-toothed fish that ripped into their flesh, and also their fins in a painful, fated experience. However, the existence of such a piranha was not uncovered until a recent discovery of its fossils found in Germany, which dated all the way back to 152 million years ago. That means it was swimming in the same era when pterosaurs soared above the oceans, and big-legged stegosaurus lumbered across the earth. Even though they're dangerous creatures, their small size might claim otherwise. At 28 inches in length, it had long and sharp teeth protruding from its upper and lower jaws with serrated cutting edges. The functionality of the teeth suggests they were meant to slice their prey, in a similar method to that of modern-day piranhas. Knowing how strong the bite force is of a modern piranha, researchers wanted to put this newly discovered species to the test, and they ended up making an incredible discovery. Not only did this creature's jaw pack an almighty punch, but the team went as far as saying that this extinct piranha took the lead as having the strongest bite force of any fish. This is in regards to its size. According to studies released in scientific reports, this prehistoric monster could bite with over 1,000 pounds of force behind it. The team then said that a Tyrannosaurus rex has the greatest bite force of any land animal. But when comparing their body sizes, pound for pound, this extinct piranha had a bigger bite force than that of Tyrannosaurus rex. On top of that, these fish were not necessarily stupid either. Instead of focusing on the flesh of their prey, These dinosaur-era piranhas mostly relied on the fins of other fish to sustain themselves. This was actually a pretty intelligent move because fins do indeed grow back. That shows the piranhas had the gumption to make their prey a source of renewable food. Whatever you may think of piranhas, these large two fishes held an important evolutionary role throughout the course of biology. So what do you make these recent discoveries and announcements? For years, NASA rovers have been sending us incredible images, which have helped us detail the Martian surface and have led to various discoveries being made. Scientists and researchers have highlighted how important it is to study the Martian surface, saying that it's likely that within the next few decades various missions will be sent here, with the end goal being that humans will one day call this place home. It seems though that for every 100 photos that are taken by the Martian rover, one stands out as being somewhat mysterious. NASA's Perseverance rover captured one of these images recently, and it led to many people questioning what the rover had captured. When the photograph was shared around social media, people couldn't help but see what appeared to be someone lying on the Martian surface. This isn't the first time that the NASA rover has been accused of capturing life on the Martian surface. And this has led to many amateur researchers coming forward and saying that if you spend long enough looking, you too can find these anomalies. One user said that it's not just humanoids that have been photographed here, but other things like strange objects. Mysterious lights, crabs, and rats have also been photographed. NASA, though, are not impressed with these images, and have said that although it can sometimes look like someone or something is on Mars, what people are seeing is pareidolia. This is where everyday things like rocks and clouds play tricks on the mind and look as if there's a face or something else there, when in reality there's nothing. Interestingly, it's not just everyday people who are making these claims. A professor from Ohio University has come forward and suggested that photographs taken on the red planet may show proof of living creatures. This professor is referring to insects and states that due to the vast amounts of photographs available on NASA's websites, one is able to with enough patience discover insects hiding among the rocks. This news broke when the professor held a talk in November a few years back, and it didn't take long for the news to make various headlines across the world. Usually when these types of claims come out, it's from individuals that are set in their ways. But when a professor, a scientist, or a researcher makes these types of claims, it usually captures the attention of people. During his talk, he showed a number of different photographs showing what was, according to him, proof of insects on the red planet. Interestingly enough, he suggested that some of these photos also show insects that were fossilized. One of the photographs he presented as evidence is said to be that of a bee. He points out that the creature in question has shiny eyes, and this is what convinced him that there are living insects on Mars. Although these claims sound far-fetched, there are many that believe what he's saying. The professor is highly respected and has been in his field for over 45 years. So he said he's somebody who is easily able to distinguish an insect in a photograph. This is one of the things that's made people excited about these comments. However, Joy Crisp, who was the Curiosity Deputy Project Scientist of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory at the time, said the following. Clearly it results from, a lot of things like wind erosion and mechanical abrasion and breakdown chemical weathering on rocks. This is why they get these weird shames. NASA has set the main goal of the Perseverance rovers to gather samples. These can be studied on Mars by the rovers to a certain extent, although NASA did express interest in sending future rovers to the red planet in order to receive these samples and bring them back to Earth. Scientists are looking for signs of past life on Mars, saying that a good place to start looking is ancient lake bends. NASA said the following on their website, while the rover has significant autonomous capabilities, such as driving itself across the Martian landscape, hundreds of Earthbound scientists are still involved in analyzing results and planning further investigations. There are almost 500 people on the science team. The number of participants in any given action by the rover is on the order of 100. It's great to see these scientists come to agreement in analyzing their clues, prioritizing each step and putting together the pieces of the Eroso science puzzle. This isn't the only interesting announcement that's been made by NASA. Recently, they reported that ancient life may have been scrubbed from parts of Mars. This study was conducted by the Curiosity rover, with the space agency saying that it made the discovery while it was investigating rocks in the Gale crater. As NASA reported, the Gale crater has been the home of the Curiosity rover, saying that it landed there back in 2012, and since then has traveled across the crater in order to find signs of life. This area is a good place to look because it's made of clay, and this is a good indicator because it's suspected that at one point in time this area would have had water running through it. NASA also said it's a good place for there to be evidence of microbial fossils. Oddly enough, though, when the Curiosity rover took some samples from this crater, the dried-out lake bed revealed that certain areas contained more minerals than others, even though these samples had been taken virtually next to each other. Tom Bristow, a researcher at NASA, said the following about the discovery. We used to think that once these layers of clay minerals formed at the bottom of the lake and Gale crater, they stayed that way, preserving the moment in time they formed for billions of years. But later, Bryant broke down these clay minerals in some places, essentially resetting the rock record. Study co-author John Grossinger continued with the following. These are excellent places to look for evidence of ancient life, engage habitability. Even though diagenesis may erase the signs of life in the original leg, it creates the chemical gradients necessary to support subsurface life. So we're really excited to have discovered this. So what do you make of these interesting photographs? We like to dive into the strange, fascinating, and often unexplored aspects of the world around us. For years, humans have depended on water for their survival. So much so that in the early days of our existence, we could not survive unless we built our civilizations near lakes, rivers, streams, or other bodies of water. In recent years, though, divers have detailed their strange experiences while being in some of the most uncharted places on our planet. One person posted the following story to social media. He said the following, I worked with a guy who used to be a deep-sea welder. He also worked on various things in the ocean, such as rings, which would require him to dive deep beneath the ocean. We got talking one day as we shared a lot of things in common, as I used to do a bit of diving myself. And he told me about some of the strange things he witnessed while carrying out jobs. Due to the years of experience he told me he could easily identify wildlife. Instead, he would often encounter things like deep-sea fish, sharks, along with various squid species. He told me that saturation diving pays well, but it's a job that carries its risks, and that this encounter made him think twice about re-entering the water. He said that on this one occasion, he and a team was called out to a big job, which saw him and the team assembling and maintaining an oil rig and pipelines. While he was down there, each of the team had their positions. He detailed that the visibility wasn't great and that it was overall a difficult job to carry out. He said that on day 5 of the job he got into position and started working, but after around 20 minutes he kept on feeling something heavy touch his back. At first he thought it might have been another team member, but when he turned around there was no one there. His second thought was that it could have been a school of fish, going on to say that these structures are somewhat of an attractor for smaller species, as they act like protection for them. When it happened a few minutes later, he said he was able to get a glimpse of this thing, and said the only way he could describe it is that it looked like some type of squid. He detailed that the organism put him into a sort of trance, saying that it did this by changing shape and color. He said that he'd never experienced anything like it before, as he was still awake and knew what was going on, but couldn't move a muscle. The reason that he said the organism was like a squid is because this is the only animal that he was aware of that had this type of ability. Although he said that he'd never encountered anything that looked like this creature, that had its abilities. He said that he's never gotten over the fact that this creature was able to paralyze him without touching him. When I asked whether anyone else had seen all of this unfold, he told me that he was behind a large piece of equipment that obstructed his view, saying that all of the other members of the diving team were working on areas of the rig that were out of view, so although the team was within the area, none of them saw each other. He also said that these structures are massive, and even if they were working close to each other, the visibility in the region that they were in wasn't grained. He continued saying that once the creature approached him, getting within 10 feet, He said that it slowed down its coloration and stopped moving its body into different shapes, and once it did this, he started to regain movements in his arms and legs. After the creature swam off, he said he had an incredibly painful headache and felt very dizzy. On the day of the encounter, he said that everything was fine before he entered the water. He didn't complain of having a headache. He didn't have a drink or anything in his system that would compromise him. So he was sure about what he'd witnessed. When I questioned him on the size of the creature, he said that it was difficult to say. The only thing he said was that it was much bigger than him. He was certain that it wasn't a common squid species that he'd encountered before, saying that normally the areas where he worked had much smaller species, and that they didn't have the abilities that this creature had. He said he tried to research what this thing was, but every time he did he came up empty, being unable to find an organism that matched this one. He said I was the only person he told the story to, and that he was certain that if he told anyone they would judge him. He did admit that he got scared when he went back into the water, as this organism possessed the ability to control him, and it was something that really shocked him. Even though the encounter only lasted a minute or so, it was something that he didn't want to relive. He said the headache lasted around a week. It was easily the worst headache he'd ever had before. After this experience, he said he never encountered the creature again, and that, as of today, he has no idea what it was he encountered. So what do you make of this interesting story? And what do you think it was that he encountered? The universe is an incredible place filled with planets, discoveries, and exciting new missions. While we might be enticed to look further and further into space, there are plenty of mysteries left unanswered closer to home. So today, we will be taking a look at 3 discoveries made within our own solar system. NASA is monitoring a huge escalating anomaly in Earth's magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field is an incredibly important aspect to our planet that we do not often talk about, not outside of science lessons at least. The magnetic field can help us keep on track, keeping our compass needles pointing north, but it also keeps our planet habitable by deflecting solar winds that otherwise would threaten to strip away the ozone layer. You might not discuss the magnetic field on a regular basis, but it's a truly valuable player in maintaining life as we know it at home here on Earth. Lately, however, something strange has been happening to that valued player, with NASA feeling the need to actively monitor and track an anomaly found in the magnetic field where the magnetic intensity seems to have dropped. There seems to be a huge area in the magnetic field which is notably less magnetic than it should be, and Southwest Africa has been impacted thus far. This unusual occurrence, known as the South Atlantic Anomaly, has been toying with the minds of scientists for years now. The American Space Agency has a number of satellites and spacecrafts orbiting in space, many of which orbit Earth. The concern here is that with the magnetic field being weakened, there is a greater exposure to the charged particles headed our way from the Sun. Life on Earth, it will have a significant impact on the spacecrafts in orbit of Earth. As they circle our planet at their low orbit altitudes, these crafts will inevitably pass straight through said anomaly. We believe that during these periods where they pass through, the lessened strength of the magnetic field can cause some disturbances in the technology used within these satellites. They can short-circuit, malfunction, and all manner of similar problems can arise. Where they are struck by high-energy charged protons from the Sun typically, if a satellite is hit by one of these particles, then the impact is not usually too severe, usually only what is considered a low-level glitch. However, there is the risk that a large amount of data can be lost when this happens, or even cause permanent damage to crucial elements of the machinery. Between all these possibilities and the increased threat these charged particles propose, it is more necessary than ever for the operators to shut these crafts down before they make it into the area impacted by the South Atlantic anomaly. NASA has begun to keep a closer eye on this, looking at both how best to protect our resources in space and at understanding the science hiding behind this complex phenomenon. Geophysicist Terry Sabaka from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland said, "This magnetic field is actually a superposition of fields from many current sources. It is the current assumption that the primary source of this is the molten iron in the Earth's outer core, approximately 3,400 kilometers below the surface of the Earth. This molten iron moves, and that movement produces electrical currents that contribute to our magnetic field. It seems as though the lack of consistency in this movement could be where the anomaly is seemingly arising from. Another contributor could be the African Large Low Shear Velocity Province. This is a huge mass of dense rock, around 2,900 kilometers underneath the continent of Africa. This seems to also disturb the generation of the magnetic field, propelling the drastic weakening. Furthermore, the tilt of Earth on its magnetic axis only heightens the impact of this. The way in which the Large Low Shear Velocity Province impacts the South Atlantic anomaly was explained further by NASA Goddard geophysicist and mathematician Weijia Kwong, who said, "The observed SAA can also be interpreted as a consequence of weakening dominance of the dipole field in the region. We still have plenty to attempt to unravel about this strange occurrence, with some suggesting it is dividing and plenty of questions that remain unanswered. Nonetheless, this has been impacting our planet for many years and will continue to do so in the future, though we are yet to see how that will impact our space exploration. As we have continued observation and monitoring, our understanding, actions, and predictions will hopefully become more accurate and better informed." Curiosity rover captures tiny mineral flower on Mars. We have carried out a lot of research into understanding the places around us in space, and the red planet is no exception. Life on Mars is a thrilling concept we have spent decades looking for. Unfortunately, this is not what scientists have stumbled across despite initial thoughts. This discovery is exciting nonetheless, and certainly worth making note of. The Curiosity rover, one of NASA's rovers on Mars, captured a photograph on the 25th of February 2022 showing us a beautiful, detailed photograph of what looked like a tiny flower on Mars' surface. In reality, the dainty 1 centimeter wide flower is a mineral deposit, despite its striking resemblance to a coral or a sponge. Though Curiosity took this shot near Aeolis Mons, sometimes better known as Mount Sharp, during Gale Crater, which spans 154 kilometers, these little mineral flowers are scattered and somewhat common all throughout Mars. This floral-shaped rock has been named the Blackthorn Salt. It's a diagenetic feature which, according to Abigail Freeman, a planetary scientist and the deputy project scientist for the Curiosity rover, means that it was created from minerals in the rainwater that was once on Mars, having previously mixed with Martian rock. Back when Mars had liquid water. Essentially, these minerals are formed through a combination of rock types brought together thanks to the rain. She explained that there are diagenetic features around Mars that show up in a similar size to this, though they don't always have the dendritic, branch-like flowered shape form that the Blackthorn Salt does. Sometimes, Freeman reports, they can be a little more rounded or even spherical. Today, almost all exists as ice, with small amounts lingering in the atmosphere as vapor. Though we already have established, and it's a largely accepted notion, that in the early history of the red planet there were large amounts of liquid water. This hypothesis has been presented due to the evidence we can see through rocks and minerals, like the processes outlined by Freeman in this research. This isn't the first time that dendritic diagenetic shapes have been observed on Mars, though this photograph taken by Curiosity does feature a particularly stunning shape. Curiosity has stumbled across several diagenetic features within Gale Crater itself. It's important that we keep tabs on and continue to explore, research, document, and discover new diagenetic features such as the Blackthorn Salt, since it can help us place a timeline to try and learn when the liquid water seemingly disappeared from Mars. We can learn about the history of the planet and when, if and how long for the planet could have potentially been habitable for life. We continue to search further into space for life, though it seems that even much closer to home there is a real possibility that life once existed. Shoemaker-Levy 9 left dark ringed scars on Jupiter comets are often spoken about in our favorite books and films as once-in-a-lifetime unmissable events. The reality is comets can fall into orbits and patterns allowing us to observe them for decades. One such comet is Shoemaker-Levy 9. Discovered in 1993, Shoemaker-Levy had already been ripped into pieces with more than 20 fragments moving in a 2-year orbit around Jupiter. It should come as no surprise then that we have had some questions about what exactly happened to this broken-up comet. Further observations were made following the discovery, leading scientists to believe that the comet, when it was a single unit, may have had a close encounter with Jupiter back in 1992, but that the tidal forces, which are incredibly powerful due to the planet's gravity, tore the comet apart. Our estimations suggest that the comet had been orbiting Jupiter for about a decade before this, beginning in the early 1980s. It is quite rare to see a comet fall into fragments like this, though what is even rarer is that the fragments then collided with Jupiter itself. NASA had a spacecraft, the Galileo orbiter, aligned to observe what they refer to as the first time in history two bodies collided in the solar system, an event that took place from July 16, 1994 through until July 22. It was revealed that these fragments crashed into Jupiter with a force equivalent to 300 million atomic bombs, leaving what NASA described as dark ring scars along the surface of the planet. The high speeds of Jupiter have seemingly wiped these scars away now. It's incredible to see how even the smallest fragments can have lasting impacts upon the solar system and how much we are able to watch and observe from right here on Earth. There are plenty of brilliant discoveries out there waiting to be uncovered. There are endless and limited opportunities out there in the universe. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Volcanoes are some of the most awe-inspiring geological formations on Earth. Despite our best efforts to understand them, they continue to surprise us with their power and unpredictability. The more we uncover about volcanoes, the more we begin to understand how little we know about them and how little we can control them. They have been around for billions of years, and new discoveries about them are being made all the time. So today we will be looking at 3 recent discoveries related to volcanoes. Kalo volcano bubble and volcanic activity. The Hawaiian volcano Kalo is the youngest and most active volcano in Hawaii and has been attracting attention for its recent activity that has been going on for years, and it does not show any signs of slowing down. In 2018, Kalo had a major eruption that caused an evacuation by thousands of residents of the Big Island. Not lacking in power, the eruption unfortunately caused the destruction of over 700 people. Buildings. In December of 2020, another eruption occurred in Kauai that lasted for 5 months. According to the Associated Press, Kauai released enough lava to fill 320,000 Olympic swimming pools and covered an area the size of Manhattan in 80 feet of hardened lava. Most recently, on September 29, 2021, Kauai began to bubble up and flood lava into the that is when officials knew an eruption was imminent. While officials said the opening phases of eruptions are dynamic and uncertain, they also noted they would continue to monitor the volcano closely. Officials said that because the eruption was confined to the Halima Omau crater, it did not pose an immediate threat to the public. The real danger is in the high levels of volcanic gas that can have far-reaching effects downwind for the Hawaiian people. People living in the area of Kilauea were warned about exposure to volcanic gases like sulfur dioxide, which can irritate the respiratory system. The powerful effect of the volcanic activity at Kilauea essentially became a tourist attraction, as many visitors were drawn by the beauty of the golden volcanic gas that resembled hair strands that were named after Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes. The skin of the bursting bubbles flies out. As some of the skin becomes stretched into these very long threads, some as long as a couple of feet, that is more than half a meter or so, observed Don Swanson, a research geologist at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. The recent activity at Kilauea is nothing new for the Hawaiian people, as it has erupted 34 times since 1954. USGS scientists say that because the 2018 eruption drained most of Kilauea's magma, the volcano is recharging, and minor eruptions like this one should be expected in years to come. It is easy to get caught up in the action of Kilauea, a fascinating natural wonder, and we will only continue to see more activity as it displays both mesmerizing images and sometimes dangerous effects for the Hawaiian people. La Palma eruption could trigger mega tsunami that hits the U.S. While the images volcanoes produce can at times be beautiful, no one should underestimate the amount of power these formations have. A volcano eruption in the Spanish Canary Island of La Palma triggered fears that a mega tsunami could hit the east coast of the United States. The eruption at the Cumbre Vieja volcanic ridge, which occurred in September of 2021, forced the evacuation of about 5,000 people from their homes around the area. It has been a while since the Spanish people have seen action from the volcano, as the last eruption occurred in 1971. Low-magnitude earthquakes are believed to have triggered the eruption that ignited fear of the possibility of a mega tsunami affecting the U.S. The fear likely stemmed from a 2001 scientific study published in the journal Geophysical that found a link between the eruption of Cumbre Vieja and a mega tsunami that could strike the U.S. The authors believed that further eruption of the volcano could compromise the entire structure through their investigations of the volcanic eruptions in 1971 and 1949. The authors thought that what they termed the catastrophic failure of its west flank could drop between 150 to 500 kilometers squared of rock into the sea that would cross the entire Atlantic Ocean. They believed that these tsunami waves could reach the east coast with a height of 33 to 82 feet. Despite their findings, subsequent studies have diminished the threat of a possible tsunami on the east coast due to the volcanic eruption. It has been argued that any collapse of the ridge triggering the force hypothesized in the study is extremely unlikely because flank collapses would happen in stages. Is that a collapse would have devastating effects on the people of La Palma. Janine Krippner, a volcanologist at the Global Volcanism Program, reflected, "This scenario has been discredited by researchers, but it is rampant right now. Experts are lost in the noise, and people cannot access or trust the facts. We look at extreme scenarios in science to understand the entire spectrum of events, out to what may not be possible. Communicating that is so difficult. South American volcano shows potential signs of instability. New research has shown that one of South America's most prominent volcanoes has been showing potential signs of instability and collapse. The Black Giant, as it is known locally, is Tungarua volcano in Ecuador that has been displaying signs of flank instability, which would result in an enormous landslide. According to new research led by James Hickey from Canborn School of Mines, the volcano's recent activity has led to deformation on the western flank. Researchers say that the effects of this should not be underestimated, as it could cause widespread damage to the surrounding local areas if the flank does end up collapsing. They recommend that the volcano should be monitored closely to detect any more substantial signs of a potential collapse. Dr. Hickey explains, "Using satellite data, we have observed very rapid deformation of Tungaruhua's west flank, which our research suggests is caused by imbalances between magma being supplied and magma being erupted. Interestingly, Tungaruhua has seen frequent activity since 1999, when volcanic activity led to the evacuation of 25,000 people in nearby areas. Another eruption that occurred about 3,000 years ago already caused a partial collapse of the west flank, which has been slowly rebuilt over time. Despite the rebuilding, the new west flank has been showing signs of rapid deformation while the other flanks have remained stable. The deformation is explainable by shallow temporary magma stored beneath the west flank. If this magma supply continues, it can cause stress to build up within the volcanic core, causing instability on the west side that could lead to a collapse." Dr. Hickey adds, "Magma supply is one of a number of factors that can cause or contribute to volcanic flank instability. So while there is a risk of possible flank collapse, the uncertainty of these natural systems also means it could remain stable. However, it's definitely one to keep an eye on in the future. This volcano, termed the Throat of Fire, is nothing to sit still about, because although Tungarua is quite incredible, it is also potentially dangerous. This activity further proves how little control we have over these geological marvels. The recent activity at Kilauea, Cumbre Vieja, and Tungarua are reminders that volcanoes can erupt at any time. While it is essential to be aware of their dangers, it is incredible what we are still discovering about our world, with the latest volcano discoveries only adding to the intrigue. With new technology and better observation techniques, scientists are able to piece together a more complete picture of how our planet works, including the sometimes devastating forces lurking beneath our feet. But what do you make of these volcano discoveries? Since 2019, the Warren Occult Museum, where the Annabelle doll has been kept, has been closed, and it's led many to ask, what's going to happen to the doll along with the many items that have called this place home? The famous ghost hunting couple Ed and Elaine Warren opened the museum as a place to house these objects. They were a pair of prominent American paranormal investigators who were well known for investigating a variety of high-profile cases. A married couple, the two were among the first investigators of the Amityville haunting, and their notoriety increased as they worked on other notable cases. Throughout the course of their lives, the Warrens claimed to have investigated over 10,000 cases of supposed activity, and their work has inspired a number of horror movies, including those in the Conjuring universe. Since their passing, the Warren son-in-law Tony Spear has taken the reins, and it's said that he's now in charge and is keeping a close eye on these objects. But people have questions, including what's going to happen to Annabelle, when's the museum going to open again, and what will happen to all of the other haunted objects. A few years back, there was a story that went around social media detailing that Annabelle had somehow escaped. Tony put these stories to rest saying the following: "I'm here to tell you something. I don't know if you want to hear this or not, but Annabelle did not escape. Annabelle's alive. Well, I shouldn't say alive, but Annabelle's here. In all her infamous glory, she never left the museum. Remember, I have high-tech security here. If she left the museum, I would have instantly known if something happened or somebody broke in. I have good alarm systems here and the police are good to respond. They respond within a couple of minutes. But Annabelle's here. She didn't go anywhere. She didn't take a trip. She didn't fly first class and she didn't go out to visit her boyfriend. So here she is. Let me put the rumors to rest." Police Chief John Salvatore detailed why the museum has been closed since 2019, saying the following: "Tony said that he's tried working things out with the officials, but said that things have become somewhat difficult." He continued with the following: "I've been in compliance with the town's order and have added more signage in an attempt to quell curious visitations from fans. I've done everything to the best of my ability to stop the intrusion of unwanted guests. I'm not happy with people crawling around the house at all hours either, and the burden placed on neighbors and the local police department, who do a fantastic job of checking on and clearing the property. There's also some stuff that happened between Tony and Zach Baggins from Ghost Avengers, with Tony saying that he regretted doing an episode with Zach and his team, with Tony saying the following: he was all an act for their camera. He was saying, I want to hug her. I feel sorry for her. I feel a connection to her. But they cut it all out, though. Tony did say that Zach could have experienced something, saying the following: the problem is it doesn't have to happen right away. The devil doesn't have to do what you want it to do. It may happen a year from now and you won't attribute it to the doll. They're sly, they're cunning, and they hate you." Zach hit back these comments, though, saying the following: "I'm fed up with the nasty things this man is saying about myself, my entire crew, and our show. If his claims of Annabelle being purely evil and demonic and had the power to cause a guy's fatal motorcycle accident just for talking to her from outside her protective case, then why would he even take her out of her protective sealed case that Ed and Elaine Warren put a sign on that reads warning positively do not open, then cram her into a small plastic briefcase and use other myths to carry her around my museum? Putting her in a high chair and letting us investigate her. I'll wait for a large amount of money he was quick to collect after he stormed off set. Wonder how Ed and Elaine Warren would feel that you took Annabelle out of her case they never said to do for a big check. Stop being a hypocrite. This isn't some joke, though. Those who work with and around Annabelle take the haunting seriously. For example, back in 2017, workers poured holy water on themselves after moving Annabelle. This was done to ensure that nothing bad would happen to them for the rest of the day. In fact, Lorraine Warren, who unfortunately passed away, is noted as saying the following: "We have a priest come in and bless the museum, including Annabelle. These are prayers that bind evil, much like an electric fence for adults." Almost everyone used to own a Raggedy Ann doll back in its heyday. It was one of the most popular toys. Some of these dolls can even go for as much as almost $1,000. And it appears that several different companies sold several different variations of these incredibly popular designs. In the case of the two paranormal researchers and self-proclaimed experts, the Raggedy Ann doll held a very special place for them, and it was locked in a display case fitted and reinforced with a strong encasing metal. This was due to the fact that the Raggedy Ann was recovered in a haunting case, of which they investigated many years ago. The doll was named Annabelle, and displayed impossible characteristics that led to its previous owners to suspect that it was cursed. It had the ability to move on its own, tap against objects, write terrifying messages, and supposedly speak out at random times. The real Annabelle doll was given to a young girl named Donna. She was a student who was training as a nurse at the time the doll was given to her. What's interesting about this story is that Annabelle was found in a secondhand store. The doll very quickly started showing signs of a paranormal nature. It started off with small things such as movements in the night. However, this was brushed aside. As the owner said, it was likely the wind. But this was not the case. The doll had a life of its own and was not afraid to show it. The longer Donna had the doll, the more it started to open up to her. And this is when things started to get strange. Donna had a close friend named Lou, and it said that he was very nervous around the doll and felt as if it was watching him every time he was near it. Other friends would also speak out how uncomfortable they felt around the doll, saying that they could hear mysterious voices seemingly coming from nowhere, and that on some occasions Annabelle's eyes would follow you around the room. It's reported that Donna was very fond of the doll and struggled to believe the stories that her friends were trying to tell her. However, this all stopped when she had an experience of her own. On one occasion, she left the doll to go to work. However, when she came home, she discovered on multiple occasions that Annabelle had somehow moved. Not only this, but she had moved to a different room and even shut the doors in the process. Donna couldn't understand how a tiny doll was able to do this. But things would only get worse from this point on. Her friends then started to find notes throughout her apartment, one of which read, "Help me." On another occasion, Lou was left alone in the apartment. Everything was fine until he heard strange sounds coming from Donna's room. Thinking she got home early, he opened the door. However, instead of finding Donna, he found Annabelle, and she was sat on the bed looking at the door. Shortly afterwards, the Warrens were called in, and they were sure that Annabelle was possessed. They both decided that it would be best if they took it back with them. While driving back to their home, it's reported that Annabelle caused a crash, and the Warrens are sure that whoever is possessing the doll caused this on purpose. Even after getting the doll home, she continued to show signs of being possessed. She'd levitate above Ed's desk and caused bad chest pains to whoever was close by. The doll is considered to be evil, is now locked in a glass case. This doll would later go on to inspire the Annabelle movie franchise and is often at the center of strange paranormal investigations. As of today, she is considered to be one of the most haunted dolls in the world. Paranormal researchers have said it's quite possible for spirits to inhabit objects. The paranormal is a subject that interests many of us. So far, though, experts are not convinced that ghosts and other entities are real and say that most paranormal footage can be explained. However, there are those that have said they have proof, and this is in the form of photographs and objects. Given the fact that no one knows the true nature of how a curse can occur, it's been a tale often fraught with mystery as much as horror. Though the ways an individual can be cursed can vary depending on culture, one thought that so has been the same is the ownership of an object, and what that does to its owner. Often referenced are a history of cursed objects of whom have brought nothing but horror to its new home. This seems to be a retelling of these same themes to this day in modern tales of cursed objects. These stories tend to find themselves in the ownerships of families filled with misfortune. Researchers go on to say that once a spirit is bonded with an object, it can be tough to break that bond. This only causes trouble for the new owners, as they have to deal with the entity that's attached to this object. This means that the majority of these haunted objects get sold on, or sold to museums that can house them in the right way. So what do you make of the Annabelle doll? Humankind has been making scientific discoveries since their inception. Human curiosity has always pulled us forward as we discover new ways of interpreting the world around us. Discoveries like these help us make sense of ourselves and our world. So today we will be taking a look at 3 extraordinary new discoveries. Scientists had a secretive meeting about creating synthetic human DNA. Scientists are discussing the feasibility of using chemicals to build human DNA. If successful, DNA could be created without the need for biological parents. While still in the project planning process, a discovery like this could allow scientists to create human beings through a process that is similar to cloning. The meeting occurred on May 10th at Harvard Medical School. Attendees gathered as part of a group called the Human Genome Project 2 or HGP2. Behind closed doors, 150 attendees and scientists discussed the feasibility of DNA synthesis or the artificial production of human DNA. Their goal was to determine if the synthesis of a complete human genome could be completed within the next 10 years. Organizers described the meeting as a follow-up to the first Human Genome Project, where scientists worked to build a deeper understanding of human DNA. The difference between the original Human Genome Project and HGB2 is the new project will build the human genome, not just understand it. An event organizers said the project title and intention had been misunderstood, and the meeting title Human Genome Project 2 was later renamed to HGP Right, testing large synthetic genomes in cells. The topic alone has caused controversy in the scientific community, but the closed-door nature of the meeting has amplified frustrations. Absolutely no media coverage was allowed and participants could not use social media during the meeting. Drew Endy, a bioengineer at Stanford, and Lori Zoloff, a bioethicist at Northwestern University, are outspoken in their opposition to the project. They caution, while we strongly agree that sustained improvements in DNA construction tools are essential for advancing basic biological science and improving public health, we are skeptical that synthesizing a human genome is an appropriate demand driver. The creation of new human life is one of the last human-associated processes that has not yet been industrialized or fully commodified. It remains an act of faith, joy, and hope. Event organizers defended the meeting by sharing the vast scientific improvements this research could make. A primary organizer for the event, George Church, a genetic professor at Harvard Medical School, said, "They're painting a picture which I don't think represents the project." Organizers like Church clarifying that the meeting was created to determine the deliverables and industry involvement needed to replace the existing genome in a human cell with a synthetic one. It was not organized to discuss the artificial creation of human beings. Church further explained that a private meeting was necessary because a scientific paper related to the discussion was under review for publication. In the scientific community, it is a requirement to keep this research private prior to its publication. It is an interesting and controversial topic for all involved. While this project is said to be still in the planning stages, it's becoming more feasible to expect this technology to exist in the coming future. This new technology could help us cure diseases and advance medical care for millions, but it could also lead to disaster. Scientists accidentally discover huge galactic structure in space. Astronomers have made a fantastic yet accidental celestial discovery. Ron Allen, a physics and astronomy professor at Johns Hopkins University, alongside a team of astronomers, accidentally discovered a galactic structure made from gas and dust. This gigantic structure extends through the disk of the Milky Way galaxy and possibly beyond. Since discoveries like this are so rare, the group barely believed it at first. But since then, more observations have confirmed the structure's existence. The pathway to this discovery was marked with changes in how celestial bodies are observed. Originally, when astronomers would talk about the term vacuum of space, it was defined as the empty space between celestial bodies. Now, astronomers are realizing that space is not actually empty, but is instead filled with a dust and gas mixture called interstellar medium. The gas in the interstellar medium is mainly composed of hydrogen. Hydrogen is essentially invisible to astronomers, so they must decipher the existence of hydrogen placements in space by tracking other gases like carbon monoxide or hydroxyl gas. These gases are called tracers. Allen collaborated with Dave Hogg of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory and Johns Hopkins University PhD students Philip Engelke and Michael Bush to use tracers to eventually reveal the existence of the newfound galactic structure. At first, the team thought the structure was a marker or feature of the Green Bank telescope that they used for their research. Engelke commented, "To be even more sure, We tried several different independent signal processing techniques on the GBT and 20-meter results to attempt to, but none of these methods managed to remove it. After another 100 hours of research, the astronomers were confident the structure was real. This finding could affect how we understand certain theories about the formation of stars and interstellar medium structure. It also reveals that molecular gas played a significant role in the birth of the Milky Way galaxy. Unfortunately, Allen passed away in 2020 while the research was still in draft form, but his discovery will continue to help us understand our galaxy's complexities. PhD student Michael Bush said, "Ron was an incredible mentor, a brilliant astronomer, and a great friend to me. I will miss him dearly." Astronomers crack the mystery of the monster stars. 12 years ago, a group of scientists found four gigantic monster stars. These stars were found in the giant star cluster named R136 in a neighboring galaxy called the Large Magellanic Cloud. The largest of these monster stars are more than 300 times as massive as our Sun and mysteriously have never been found anywhere else. Since 2010, a group of astronomers has been trying to find an explanation for the massive stars. Astronomers from the University of Bonn in Germany have a solution. They resolved that the monster stars were created by the merger of smaller stars rotating in tight pairs or binary systems. Why is this discovery so groundbreaking? Well, before the stars were discovered, scientists believed that stars of that size could not exist. They believed that stars formed in the present-day universe could not exceed the limit of 150 times the Sun's mass. It was universally agreed that this was the maximum limit for the size of a star, that is, until the monster stars were discovered. Because these giant stars contradicted this limit, scientists believed that these stars might be an exception to the rule. They wondered if the creation process for these stars differed from all others in that this would mean that a basic principle of modern astronomy was wrong. To determine how the stars were created, astronomers from the University of Bonn, along with Sumbaran Banerjee and Seung-Kung Oh, worked to solve this mystery. They made an accurate model of all 170,000 stars in the R136 cluster. After hundreds of thousands of calculations, the astronomers began seeing an accurate recreation of the birth of these monster stars. Since the cluster has so many stars in such a tight area, the stars formed binary pairs. These pairings rotate around each other until the two stars collide and combine to form a heavier, more giant star. Eventually, they become as large as the massive stars found in R136. Lead investigator Sumbaran Banerjee explains the phenomenon best. But where the duo gets pulled apart by the gravitational attraction from their neighboring stars. If their initially circular orbit is stretched enough, then the stars crash into each other as they pass and make a single ultramassive star. Although extremely complicated physics is involved when two very massive stars collide, we still find it quite convincing that this explains the monster stars. Pavel Krupa of the University of Bonn explains, "This helps us relax because the collision means that the ultramassive stars are a lot easier to explain. The universality of star formation prevails after all. From the birth of stars to the creation of human DNA, science leads us to new discoveries that impact how we see." What do you make of these discoveries? There are mysteries all around us, and we are fascinated by what we cannot understand. Inexplicable phenomena are discovered every day, keeping our curiosity piqued and the prospect of knowing the world around us a foreign concept. So today, we'll be exploring three interesting discoveries, exploring the vast dark corners of the universe, its ancient galaxies, and the possibility for life on Mars. Aliens may have observed civilizations emerge on Earth. Earth is perfectly positioned so that at least 1,715 nearby star systems are in view. It stands to reason that if there has been any extraterrestrial life on just one of those systems, they may have witnessed the birth of early human civilizations. These nearby star systems make up the Earth Transit Zone, or ETZ for short, and with over 300 new stars entering the ETZ within the next 5,000 years, the possibilities for alien contact only seem to increase. Not too long ago, the European Space Agency began a new mission to explore this possibility. The agency successfully launched the Gaia mission, which aims to create a 3D map of our galaxy. Gaia has discovered something truly incredible. The agency found that 75 of the closest stars in the ETZ have been touched by our radio signals. Since humans began transmitting radio signals about 100 years ago, the study found that our radio waves would have washed over them already, according to Lisa Kaltenegger, the director of the Carl Sagan Institute at Cornell University. Kaltenegger claims that the selected 75 stars are of the most interesting subset of stars for uncovering extraterrestrial intelligence. The possibility for contact with aliens has always seemed to be a sort of fantasy, but it is becoming more of an attainable goal. If extraterrestrial life does exist among these nearby star systems, it is possible that they could view Earth and even detect our life on the planet. Earth's most telling signs of life are given in the form of atmospheric oxygen and methane. Due to the necessity for react to form carbon dioxide and water, the two gases would need to be produced in large quantities for life to be possible. The only sound explanation for atmospheric oxygen and methane is the presence of life, according to Kaltenegger. Astronomers are always on the hunt for these telltale signs of life on faraway exoplanets. These gases can be spotted by monitoring the stars that each planet orbits. When a planet passes between the star and our viewpoint, the star's light dims. The extent to which it dims gives us a great deal of information. By analyzing the features of the star as it dims, it will determine the chemical composition of the passing planet's atmosphere. In December 2020, the Gaia mission discovered some breaking news. A report was finalized which contained a complete accounting for the movements of all ETZ stars through time. For the first time, we could take the movement of everything around us into account, Kaltenegger said. What Gaia gives you is the movement of the star over a couple of years. It has been found that within a constrained time frame, the movement of stars can be intricately predicted, unless they encounter a gravitational anomaly like a black hole, she said. So with the new Gaia data, Kaltenegger and her team could rewind the movement of nearby stars to essentially peer back in time. This allowed them to check where the stars were located 5,000 years ago and whether they provided a view of Earth at that time. They used the same method to look 5,000 years into the future. This allows astronomers to understand what stars have truly been within reach of us and which ones may have felt our radio waves. With this new information, we can begin upgrading our search for extraterrestrial life. Solar tornadoes captured on the sun's surface. Since the sun is so incredibly important to life on Earth, it is under constant surveillance by scientists, and because of this you might think that surprising occurrences would be rare, but the invisible magnetic field that bends the charged gas and plasma around the sun has revealed some strange phenomenon. The Solar Dynamics Observatory, or SDO, is run by NASA and is used to capture high-definition images of the sun from space. The surface of the sun is always bending and twisting from the magnetic energy generated on its surface, but recently scientists have noticed an odd phenomenon that appears to be a gigantic solar tornado rotating across the surface. The plasma, which usually flares and spits from the surface with no apparent pattern, was rotating and spinning in a manner that greatly resembles how the debris and trash swells in a tornado. This supports the theory that the field around the sun generates solar weather by creating unevenly heated and charged particles that cause currents and other examples of atmospheric variability. These solar tornadoes are not common, only a few a year are recorded, but when they do occur, they are impressive to behold. In 2015, a gigantic plume of swirling superheated plasma raged across the surface of the sun for 40 hours, and every minute of it was recorded and analyzed by the Solar Dynamics Observatory spacecraft technology. The temperature of the ultraviolet plasma peaked at over 2.8 million degrees Celsius. In 2014, one of these mammoth solar tornadoes spun so violently it spun off the surface of the sun and dissipated into space. One of the largest recorded solar tornadoes was documented in 2011 by the Solar Dynamics Observatory to be about 5 times the size of the Earth and spinning at a rate of 186,000 miles per hour. The solar flares traveled in a twisting, spiraling pattern up off the surface of the sun to about 200,000 kilometers into the solar atmosphere. Analysis of solar tornadoes is important because they are driven by the powerful magnetic field of the sun and usually occur at the same time as massive blasts of solar plasma called coronal mass ejections. It isn't known whether solar tornadoes trigger coronal mass ejections, only that they generally occur in conjunction with each other. But studying the solar tornadoes could likely give us a better understanding of the coronal mass ejections, which are known to disrupt our lives on planet Earth. By interfering with GPS signals, radio communications, and power grids. The Solar Dynamics Observatory is part of a highly funded NASA initiative called Living with a Star that seeks to gain a greater understanding of our sun and the effects of solar variability and weather patterns on our planetary life through the study of such phenomena as these solar tornadoes. NASA is struggling to save the Hubble Space Telescope. NASA is fighting to save its famous space telescope Hubble after an unexpected computer failure. The prized telescope has been offline for over a week as astronomers and physicists scramble to fix the issue. Hubble launched successfully in 1990. The world-renowned innovation began capturing the universe in revolutionary detail. The observatory has worked hard since its inception to capture images of some of the most awe-inspiring sights. Through Hubble, we have had the opportunity to discover new moons around Pluto, witness births and deaths of stars, and track two unidentified interstellar objects as they zipped through our solar system. Hubble has allowed astronomers to unlock the secrets of our universe. It has even granted us the ability to calculate the age and expansion of the universe itself. It has spotted galaxies over 13.4 billion light-years away, essentially letting us look into the past. On June 13th, this wonder of science took an unexpected turn. The telescope's payload computer suddenly went out of operation. The computer has held strong since 1980 and has been the foundation of the Hubble ever since. It essentially works as the brain of the observatory. It controls and monitors every instrument and gadget on the spacecraft. When it stopped working, NASA shifted into overdrive to fix it. NASA tried and failed to restart the computer on June 14th. A few days later, they tried again to bring both the current module and the backup online. All attempts failed. While this poses a serious complication, Hubble has not been free of issues in its 30-year lifespan. The telescope has gone through many troubleshoots and upgrades. This is not the first time it has glitched or needed an upgrade in this year alone. In March, a software error sent the observatory out of order, but within a few days it was resolved without much of a problem. Astronauts have visited Hubble to replace old parts and fix problems on 5 occasions since 1990. The most recent mission was in 2009. 2 failing instruments were repaired and the telescope was upgraded with a brand new computer. New insulation, new batteries, spectrograph, and a new camera. By maintaining the telescope with the special care it has received, it has continued to conduct groundbreaking science for 30 years. However, the beloved Hubble will not be a permanent fixture. During the recent maintenance mission, NASA astronauts installed a device intended to push Hubble into Earth's atmosphere when it comes time to decommission the telescope. Will burn up and essentially be destroyed by the atmospheric pressures it will face. NASA plans to launch a more sophisticated space telescope into orbit as early as November 2021. The new observatory, James Webb Space Telescope, will have the capacity to see 15 times further than 100 times. What do you make of these discoveries? The universe is so much larger than we could ever imagine. We have only touched the tip of the iceberg in our quest to understand the planets and celestial bodies around us. Each discovery brings us one step closer. So today we will be taking a look at 3 interesting discoveries. ESA Huygens probe landed on Saturn's moon Titan. Roughly 17 years ago, on January 14, 2005, the Huygens probe landed on Saturn's moon Titan. Since 2005, Huygens has provided scientists with data to help them better understand this one-of-a-kind planet. The Huygens probe landing was the farthest any probe had traveled before. It also became the first to land in the outer solar system. The Huygens probe weighed roughly 700 pounds and was shaped like a shellfish with a hard protective outer shell. The probe had the ability to measure many aspects of Titan's surface, including its physical and electrical properties, wind speed, radiation levels, and the chemical gases that are present. The probe also had the ability to take photos of the surface. Carolyn Porco wrote, "The images returned to the European Space Agency included photos of an apparent shoreline, including breaks in the Earth, carved by some sort of flowing liquid. There was also evidence that supports the idea of an underground ocean of water and ammonia deep beneath an icy crust." One of the reasons scientists are interested in researching the surface of Titan is because of the presence of chemicals that are believed to have been present on a young Earth. Nitrogen and methane were both found in the atmosphere. The methane element is interesting because methane's lifespan in Titan's atmosphere is only tens of millions of years, meaning the methane must somehow be replenished throughout time. There were changes with the Hygen probe. These changes are helping scientists perfect probe design as we continue to explore space. The first problem the ESA encountered was the spin direction of the probe. After an unexpected flip in the spacecraft's spin, it descended onto Titan more quickly than anticipated. The spin direction and speed were essential to scientists because any alterations could affect the spacecraft's ability to stabilize for landing. The ESA explained, "Luckily, the magnitude of this reverse spin was similar to that expected by the researchers, meaning that the unexpected flip affected the timing of the planned observations but did not dramatically affect their quality." Unfortunately, there was also an issue with a programming sequence that meant about 350 images Huygens took were never sent back to Earth. Not only did Huygens provide scientists with imperative data about Saturn's moon Titan, but 17 years later the data acquired during Huygens' journey is still helping spacecraft designers create future probes. NASA space probes discover man-made barriers surrounding Earth. Humankind accidentally protected itself from possibly dangerous cosmic events. An artificial barrier or bubble, as some call it, was found surrounding the Earth. This barrier not only affects weather events in space, but also protects us from dangerous cosmic weather. Human impact on Earth is undeniable, but now we know our technology significantly impacts our outer atmosphere and beyond. As it turns out, the bubble was created by the interaction of man-made technology and space, more specifically the interaction between high-energy radiation particles in space and man-made radio communications from Earth. The radio waves in question are typically used to communicate with submarines under the ocean surface and are frequently used in science, engineering, and military operations. As these waves work to reach their destination, they can end up reaching out beyond Earth's atmosphere and interacting with external radiation particles in space. Dan Baker from the University of Colorado Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics calls the bubble an impenetrable barrier. This artificial barrier protects Earth from possible dangers like solar flares or coronal mass ejections. All these phenomena can lead to radiation particles entering the atmosphere, which could interrupt our electrical grids and radio wave communications. So how was the barrier discovered? In 2012, a mission was launched with the sole purpose of studying the Van Allen radiation belts. 5 years later, in 2017, scientists were surprised to instead find a low-frequency barrier that stopped dangerous solar discharges from impacting Earth. The barrier or bubble also happens to line up with the inner edge of the Van Allen belts. This information has scientists suspecting that the radio waves used in submarine communications, VLF waves, repel radiation particles. If we stopped using VLF waves, the radiation belts would move much closer to Earth's atmosphere. Right now, the radiation belts are further away from Earth than they were in 1960. Scientists have been discussing how this finding shows our impact on space. We have, without a doubt, made an impact on the Earth, but this barrier may be one of the best things that we have done for our planet. Scientists say that 4 mysterious signals from outer space are coming from galaxies like ours. Astronomers have discovered strange signals coming from the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Australian scientists using the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder radio telescope detected these signals 4 times over the span of 2 weeks. The transmissions, originating roughly 4,000 light-years away near the core of our galaxy, consist of irregular pulses and bursts that scientists have never seen before. During the early stages of planet formation, radio signals of similar frequencies are emitted. These new signals are more erratic than those emitted during planet creation, confusing scientists. Nothing about the signals follow a pattern that has been seen before. The intensity of the radio signal varies randomly. The orientation and rotational direction of the transmission is random and changes frequently, and the timing of the signals cannot be planned. Experts from the University of Sydney have shared they believe the signals are coming from a new type of star that we have never seen before. Ziding Wang, a PhD student in the School of Physics at the University of Sydney, said the brightness of the object also varies dramatically by a factor of 100, and the signal switches on and off apparently at random. We've never seen anything like it. Due to the variability of the transmission, scientists first believed it could be from a supernova, solar flare, or pulsar. But the emissions received do not match with what is known about those phenomena. Still, scientists have no idea what caused the signals. Their hope is placed on a new radio telescope being built within the next decade. The telescope, called the Transcontinental Square Kilometre Array Radio Telescope, will hopefully solve this mystery. Professor Tara Murphy from the Sydney Institute for Astronomy and the School of Physics said, "We expect the power of this telescope will help us solve mysteries such as this latest discovery. But it will also open vast new swathes of the cosmos to exploration in the radio spectrum. From discoveries that help us understand the universe to discoveries that make us question what we already know, the vast expanse of space continues to make us wonder. And what do you make of these discoveries? Mysteries all around us, and we are fascinated by what we cannot understand. Inexplicable phenomena are discovered every day, keeping our curiosity piqued and the prospect of knowing the world around us a foreign concept. So today, we'll be exploring new discoveries from deep under volcanoes to man-made cosmic disruptions and new discoveries found in our very own galaxy with 3 fascinating finds. Huge lake discovered 15 kilometers under a volcano. In an international effort comprised of scientists from Bristol, Germany, France, Canada, and Wales, a huge body of water has been discovered 15 kilometers under an inactive volcano in Bolivia. Like Lake Superior, the water found was mixed with partially dissolved molten rock at a staggering temperature. Of researchers part of the group who discovered the lake describe how the Bolivian Altiplano is an area rich in volcanic history spanning 10 million years. However, currently all volcanoes in the vicinity are dormant, making them safe to explore. The inquiry into what lay beneath this volcano's surface came after discovering that the Altiplano region of Peru sits above a geophysical anomaly 16 kilometers below the Earth's surface. Further analysis showed that this anomaly has a volume of approximately 1.5 million cubic kilometers and characteristics such as reduced seismic activity but also higher speeds and frequencies of electrical conductivity. As such, scientists were led to believe that molten rock could be a mass below the volcano. After discovering that this was indeed the case in 2016, they also think this could be a phenomenon existing under other volcanoes too. If they are right in finding these hidden lakes, it would help further inform them of how and why volcanoes erupt. More details on this discovery reveal that the rocks found are not fully molten but only partially, with a liquid ratio of about 10 to 20% of the whole rock. After performing intensive high-pressure and temperature experiments, they then found that there must be 8 to 10% of water dissolved in the molten silica. In terms of the significance of this discovery, scientists have commented on what these findings can tell us. Molten silica can only dissolve water at very high pressures, and when these thresholds are not met, the water separates from the solution, forming bubbles. As such, they can determine that it is low pressures beneath volcanoes which cause these bubbles, which in turn can drive volcanic eruptions. From here, the international teams hope to continue their research to better understand how water pressures within silicate solutions can be examined to predict volcanic activity by analyzing triggers to these occurrences. SpaceX satellites disrupting ability to spot asteroids. Elon Musk's SpaceX satellites are disrupting our human ability to spot asteroids in the night sky. But what's the big deal? The issue is the asteroids that are being obstructed from viewpoint could be fatal, wreaking havoc on the Earth without us being able to detect them. Astronomers have, for a long time now, known that our increasing additions of satellites in the are making it more and more difficult for them to carry out their observations over recent years. They recently found that SpaceX satellites are blocking their views from screening asteroids which could be headed to our dear planet Earth. Worsening this is SpaceX's plans to launch up to tens of thousands more satellites into space in the near future, having already launched more than 2,000. Commenting on the case, astronomers have said that for now this problem is minor and comparable to difficulties faced during periods of bad weather and visibility. As man-made additions to the cosmos seem to set to increase exponentially in coming years, it could reach a dangerous point quite quickly. This said, SpaceX do seem to be listening to astronomers' concerns. In 2020, the company invested in prototyping and testing sun visors for their satellites to reduce artificially caused sun glare back down to Earth. And with fair success, the visors did turn out to be effective, reducing the original brightness levels down to a fifth of what they would have been. While efforts are being made in the right direction, astronomers still worry about the growing magnitude of the problem. In 2019, only 0.5 of their asteroid observations were affected by SpaceX satellites' glares causing streaky images. By 2021, this has jumped massively to 20% of images. The satellites themselves are also launched with good intentions, that is to provide faster and better quality Wi-Fi to remote struggling areas. We must question whether these benefits really outweigh the costs of preventing observation of asteroids heading to Earth. Discovery of the rare supernova relic found at the core of the Milky Way. Supernovas are stellar explosions which then scatter essential elements back into the galaxy, helping to allow life to continue. There are different types of these explosions and different outcomes in their aftermaths. For example, stellar explosions can be from the collapse of supermassive stars, ranging down to much smaller entities such as white dwarf stars, explosions of which usually happen after collisions or excess gravitational fields. NASA's Chandra X-ray observer discovered the remains of a supernova in our Milky Way but found that it was a rare type of white dwarf explosion called a type Lax supernova. It was found near Sagittarius A East, another supernova remnant near the infamous and supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way. Astronomers emphasize its rarity, going on to say that while type Lax supernovas have been found in the universe before, they have never yet found evidence of a single one in our very own galaxy. They hope that having discovered this new one, they will be able to continue to learn more about how white dwarfs explode. There are many ways in which white dwarfs explode. They are, in short, an essential phenomenon. Their demise releases chromium, iron, and nickel into the atmosphere, thus proving to be a of these needed natural elements. Observations from NASA's Chandra show that the explosion of Sagittarius AE produced different, and in fact unusual quantities of these elements when compared to what one would expect from a typical white dwarf explosion. As such, they concluded that this was likely due to it forming a type Lax supernova, rather than the typical type Law seen from white dwarfs usually. Found in our Milky Way has encouraged astronomers to keep working on understanding a multitude of types and causes of white dwarf explosions and the different ways they produce these essential elements, says Xingqiu Liu, co-author of the study from the California Institute of Technology. With new and rare discoveries like this being made so close to home, who knows what will come next? From understanding how volcanoes erupt to ensuring the safety of Earth and understanding how essential elements are made, we are still in the process of constantly discovering and learning about things so important to our planet. What do you make of these interesting discoveries?